I'm taking some of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL and having them face off in a game of Connect 4. The players will be competing against each other each week of an entire season to try and record the most catches, most yards, and most touchdowns. At the end of each week, I'll be comparing the players' stats to see who completed one of the 3 objectives. Those players will be awarded a space on the board using this random number generator. And if more than one player completes the same objective, the tiebreaker will come down to what team scored more points in that week. However, if a space is already taken by a player, it can be stolen by someone else if they roll the same number. The first player to connect 4 spaces in a row will be the winner of today's challenge. Time to kick things off by simulating the first week of the new season. Justin Jefferson went absolutely crazy, going for 8 catches and 148 yards, but believe it or not, these stats weren't good enough to complete a single objective. Davante Adams swooped in and led the group in receptions with 12 and yards with 168, netting him 2 spaces on the board right away. Meanwhile, both Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs each recorded a single touchdown, which means we go to our points scored tiebreaker. The Bills were able to put up 24 points this week, but that wasn't enough to help Diggs secure the touchdown objective as the Dolphins put up 30 points against the Patriots. It's now time to roll our first set of numbers, and we will be starting with Tyreek Hill as he will be taking over spot number 35 on the board. Davante Adams gets 2 rolls here, and he will be starting with number 5. If his second roll is somewhere close to 5 on the board, that would give him a very early lead, and well, okay, nowhere near number 5, but he got spot number 29 as well. Here is a look now at the Connect 4 board after week 1. Let's see if Diggs and Jettis can make some noise in week 2. After taking 2 spaces off the board last week, Davante Adams was unable to complete a single objective this time around. Joining Davante Adams in the loser club for the week is ironically Tyreek Hill, who also cashed in on an objective last week. Stephon Diggs proved he was an elite touchdown scorer, being the lone touchdown scorer here in week 2 of the group, netting him his first space on the board, while Justin Jefferson gets his revenge after going crazy in week 1 where he was outshined by Davante, but now he was able to lead the group in catches and yards, scoring 2 spaces on the board. Time to roll Stephon Diggs number first, as he will now be occupying space number 12 on the board. Jettis gets 2 rolls here, and he is starting with number 5, which is currently owned by Davante Adams, so that is our first steal. He also now gets to roll a second number, and he is now locked into spot number 7 as well. After that steal, Justin Jefferson now has the most spaces covered on the board, but that can all change after week 3. It must be a curse that if you win 2 objectives in 1 week, the week after you catch an L, as this week Jettis didn't cash in on anything. Here is where things get interesting, as there is a 3-way tie for touchdowns, as Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, and Davante Adams all scored 1. The Raiders scored 24 points this week, which wasn't enough for Davante to steal the touchdown objective from Tyreek Hill, as the Dolphins actually played and beat the Bills, putting up 31 points. But if you take a look at Davante and Diggs' stat lines again, they tied in receptions, and since the Raiders scored more points than the Bills, Davante snatches 2 objectives off the board here, leading the group in reception and yards in week 3. We're starting with Tyreek Hill here, as he is getting himself another space on the board with number 29. After these 2 rolls, Davante will be the leader in spaces again, as he's starting with number 14. Now it's time to find out his second number, as he has just rolled number 35, which is currently owned by Tyreek Hill. That's another steal. With the craziest week in the book so far, no player has a real advantage to Connect 4 anytime soon, unless things get even crazier here in week 4. Despite a pretty solid week from the Cheetah, his stats weren't good enough to complete any objectives. We have another 3-way tie in touchdowns between Davante, Diggs, and Jettis, but with the Bills and Raiders each scoring 31 points, they came up just shy as the Vikings dropped 35 on the Saints. So Jettis led the group in TDs this week, Diggs led the pack in receptions, and Davante cashed in on the yards. This is our first time rolling for 3 different players in the same week, as Diggs is starting with number 15. Up next, we are going with Big Play Tay, as he rolls number 20. Now it's time to see what Gritty Boy's gonna get, and hey, he got lucky number 17. No steals this week, however, both Davante Adams and Justin Jefferson are in a pretty good position right now. Let's see if Diggs and Hill can shake things up in week 5. Back-to-back weeks for Tyreek missing out on completing an objective, but this time he isn't alone, as Jettis had a really rough performance himself. We have come to have another touchdown tie between Stephon Diggs and Davante Adams, who both had incredible weeks. The Raiders put up 31 points in their game, but that wasn't enough for the 40-burger that the Bills dropped on the Steelers, so Davante Adams takes home the yard objective this week, while Diggs completed the receptions objective as well as the touchdown objective. The next space on the board that Davante Adams is going to be taking over is number 24. Now Diggs gets to make some noise, snatching up 2 spaces, starting with the number 8, and his second space on the board is going to be number 16. After this week, Diggs is now tied with Davante for the most spaces on the board, as we now move on into week 6. This week is starting off crazy, as the Raiders are on a bye, which completely stops Davante from even having a chance to get some more spaces on the board. And in a week where some ground could have been made up, Stefon Diggs unfortunately didn't have the stats to complete a single objective. Meanwhile, in a head-to-head matchup between the Vikings and Dolphins, with Miami coming out on top 30-24, that locks up the TD objective for Tyreek Hill. Jettis gets super lucky here though by cashing in on the receptions objective and beating out Tyreek Hill by just 1 yard to secure 2 objectives this week. Tyreek is certainly trying to hit a stride right here and secure some more spaces on the board as he just rolled number 19. Jettis gets 2 rolls here, and his first space he will be taking over is number 34. What will his second number be for this week? And okay, it will be space number 11. Things are heating up as Justin Jefferson only needs to roll number 23 to win the game. That is, of course, unless someone makes a play in week 7 and steals one of his spaces. The madness continues as the Bills are on a bye week along with the Vikings. Davante Adams wasted no time in capitalizing on the lack of competition this week, cashing in on the receptions and yards objectives, while Tyreek Hill was able to find the end zone this week, securing the touchdown objective. It is time to see what Tyreek's lone number will be this week, and oh man, it's number 20, which is currently owned by Davante. That's a big steal right now. Tay does get 2 rolls right here, but that steal could be pretty impactful as his first number here is going to be 4, while his second space that he will be claiming for this week is number 13. Even after this week, Jettis is still the clear favorite, but that can of course all change here in week 8. Davante Adams has been cursed again. After completing 2 objectives last week, he was unable to complete a single one this time around. The Cheetah also didn't have good enough stats to complete any objectives either, which now opens the door to Stefon Diggs, who went absolutely crazy this week with 7 grabs for 108 yards and a touchdown. But even that wasn't enough to complete a single objective. That's because the Bills only put up 20 points this week, while the Vikings dropped 42 against the Cardinals, leading Justin Jefferson to be the first player to ever claim all 3 objectives in the same week. Could we possibly be crowning a champion here with these 3 rolls for Jettis, as he starts with number 36? The next space JJ is going to be claiming is number 33, and our final space for our guy Jefferson here in week 8 is going to be number 1. There's no doubt now that Justin Jefferson is in clear control of the board. Someone has to try and slow him down as we head into week 9. Davante Adams unfortunately finds himself back in the dumps, not being able to complete a single objective this week. Stefon Diggs will also be joining him in the losers club, as he was not able to complete an objective either. Tyreek is finally making some noise this season, leading the pack in receptions and being the lone touchdown scorer this week, while Justin Jefferson went bonkers, claiming the yards objective as he tallied up 154. Jettis gets to roll for a single number first as he landed on number 4, which is going to be stolen from Davante Adams. Tyreek now gets 2 spaces on the board as he is starting with number 26, and his second space he will be claiming now is number 2. Tyreek gaining more equity on the board definitely puts some pressure on Jettis as we are now headed into week 10. Jettis has finally been slowed down by his competitors as he wasn't able to complete an objective this week, but he isn't alone as Tyreek Hill came up short this week too. Davante finds himself leading the pack this week with the most receptions and yards, netting him 2 spaces on the board, while Stefon Diggs scored the lone touchdown out of everybody, netting himself a space on the board. Time to roll for Stefon Diggs as he will be taking over space number 23, and that's ironically what Jettis needs to win. Big Play Tay gets his 2 rolls now, starting with the number 8, which is actually going to be stolen from Diggs. As for his second roll, he will be taking over space number 22. After 10 weeks, there still isn't a single player threatening the competition as much as Justin Jefferson, but that can all change in the blink of an eye as we enter week 11. Things can get dicey here as Tyreek Hill happens to be on a bye this week, and even with 1 less player to compete against, Stefon Diggs was unable to complete a single objective. JJ came back this week with a vengeance, completing both the receptions and yards objectives. However, he did not complete the touchdown objective as the Vikings scored 35 points in a loss, while the Raiders scored 35 points in a win. Therefore, Davante Adams will be awarded the touchdown objective. Davante gets to roll for his single space first as he lands on number 32, while Jettis gets 2 more spaces for himself, starting with number 15, which will actually be stolen from Stefon Diggs, and his second space he will be taking over is number 35, which will be stolen from Davante Adams. And if I'm not mistaken, after Jettis steals space number 35 from Big Play Tay, Justin Jefferson is now the Connect 4 champion. Now let's see how these guys finish out the season. In the most epic way possible, the 4 teams each player was on have all made the playoffs. Tyreek Hill tallied up 80 catches on the year with 1,142 yards and 8 touchdowns. Stefon Diggs had an astounding 110 receptions on the year with 1,464 yards and 8 touchdowns. Big Play Tay found himself with 100 grabs on the season with 1,444 yards and 9 touchdowns. And the Connect 4 champion himself recorded 87 catches for 1,296 yards and 5 touchdowns. The $250 million man, Jalen Hurts, won MVP, but unfortunately for our guys, no one was able to win an Offensive Player of the Year award in either conference. We were rooting for 4 teams teams here in the playoffs, so surely one of them has to make the Super Bowl. Well, I guess these guys weren't really in this season for the Lombardi. They just wanted to win a good old game of Connect 4, but let's take time now to congratulate the Eagles on low-key stomping out the Chargers to win their second Super Bowl in franchise history. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'd love to know in the comments, who do you think the best wide receiver in the NFL is? And if you want to see more great content, click here.